Hey, good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox with your forecast. And does it feel like a Monday to anyone else? This long weekend has absolutely caught us all a little off here at Hail Trace, but it also feels like it's a Friday because we worked through the weekend with all of those storms that came through. Do you guys remember all of those storms that came through Saturday, Sunday, and then even a 4-star hailstorm yesterday on Monday? Today, we have another round of storms. That starts out in Texas. So again, Texas is another target for storms today, starting out in the west and then moving into central to southern Texas, like places like San Antonio, by early tomorrow morning. From large hail to high wind, that's the biggest threats for today. However, that tornado risk, it's still on the board for today. It's a low tornado threat for all, not only in Texas, but also through our Gulf states. And speaking of those Gulf state storms, those are expected to intensify. We have that sitting across places like Mississippi and Alabama right now. However, they are expected to continue to track to the east, intensifying throughout the afternoon. So we can expect some more severe storms later on today. So where are our two areas for storm initiation today? Well, we've already got storms ongoing across the southeast, but we're going to see more storms across southwestern Texas as we head into the afternoon and evening hours, maybe even seeing storms as far north as Denver. As we head into Wednesday, middle of the work week now, very similar setup where we have storms across the southeast and the Gulf states, Texas, Oklahoma, portions of New Mexico, and Colorado, all included in that risk for tomorrow. You know, it's a low risk, but oftentimes we have to watch these risks the most because these are the ones that could surprise you. Now, looking at our giveaway, we do have a giveaway that goes until the end of this week. You could win a drone that is worth about $650, but you could win it for free. All you have to do is write a post about how Hail Trace has helped you over the past 15 years. It could be 15 days or 15 years. How have we helped you? Every platform is another entry into winning that drone. Here's what you need to do. Write that post, tag Hail Trace, and then also tag hashtag 15 years of Hail Trace. That's 15 years of Hail Trace. We are celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. So we are wanting to give back to you who have helped us make it these 15 years. Alrighty, let's take a look at our storm reports from yesterday. I told you it was a very busy day yesterday. Our meteorologists were working overtime on their Monday. We saw some high winds starting off in Louisiana yesterday, but then our attention turns back to the west as we saw storms just to the west of Dallas along I-20. But the really big storm that we saw yesterday was this storm that started out in southwest Texas and then moved right into San Antonio, dropping some really impressive hailstones as it did so, kind of dissipating or weakening as it came into the city itself. But in the northern portion of San Antonio, we absolutely saw some really good hail. So this was a 4-star hail map. And let's take a look at that hail map itself. Okay, let's get down into Texas here. Holy moly, these storms are all over the place. Anywhere from San Antonio out to San Angelo, even as far south as Del Rio, we saw some really good swaths in here. And that max hail size, about 3.5 inches in size, so that's about the size of a softball. That is a massive hailstone. Almost 200,000 homes impacted here. And again, that location from San Antonio to Fredericksburg all the way to San Angelo. So there's your map for San Antonio right there. Again, you can find that map at hailtrace.com. Now today, we do have storms ongoing across the Gulf states right now. Here's a look at those storms, anywhere from Montgomery all the way up to right in between Birmingham and Atlanta area here. Now what we're watching for are maybe some small hail coming from these storms, but for the most part, these are going to stay non-severe today. Maybe a few more severe storms as we head into the afternoon, but I'm not terribly worried about the widespread severe risk here. What you're going to see is some high wind and potentially some small hail. Actually, in your hail map for today, I've left this right around the size of a quarter, maybe $half size hailstone. Really what we're going to see is a better chance for storms down in Texas that have not initialized yet, however, do have that potential within about the next 2 hours. Now here's a look at your very wide view across the U.S. right now. We've got some showers and storms up to the north in Iowa, into Minnesota. Pretty dry for the most part in Florida, maybe a few showers out there. A few showers coming off the Virginias as well. Pretty dry for the most part by the Red River, and then out to the west, we're also pretty dry. So we're kind of in that quiet before the storms, right? 65 here in Oklahoma City, 79 in Dallas, 53 in Denver. We've got some warmer temperatures farther down to the south into places like Houston. What about that significant hail model for today? So let's get into those severe risks now. That significant hail model highlighted here in yellow, but while I told you those more intense storms are going to be out in Texas, I want to actually go down into the southeast first just to show you that these hailstones are probably going to be on the smaller side. We've got the yellow kind of trying to mix in here, but really these are some small hailstones if you look at your legend there. So let's take you back out to Texas because that's where your bigger hailstones are going to be. This is out in the western side of the state and mainly the southwestern side of Texas. We're actually seeing a little corridor right here along the border that probably will have the best chance for the largest hailstones. We're talking about, sure, 2.5 inches, 3 inches are possible, but I think that we could get even larger than that in some very isolated places today. Again, that'll be through the afternoon and evening hours right along this area, maybe even stretching up a little bit farther to the north, but in the southwestern side of the state. As storms continue to track to the east, they will come across 35 into San Antonio, just to the south of Dallas, as we head into the overnight hours, but they'll start to weaken. We'll see almost a repeat of this tomorrow as well as we head into your Wednesday, another round for large hailstones. How large? I told you today, we could get very isolated up to softball-size hail once again. Now, where is that expected to be? Mainly out, as I mentioned, southwestern side of the state. Let's go out to the Gulf states first. Quarter-size hail. I told you. Small hailstones out here, pretty low chance at that even. We'll have some isolated severe storms, but for the most part, these hailstones are going to remain small. Let's head back out to Texas, okay? I brought this risk for some larger hailstones up to Denver. However, I'm keeping that in the low category. Actually, if I could choose like a very low category, if I could get even like a lower risk than this, that's what I would choose here in Denver. I think that we have a very low chance to see a rogue storm out in Denver. This is an area of the country that could surprise you. So we can't say zero, but we're saying very low. As we head down into Texas, that's whenever your risk intensifies, right? You see those higher risks in places like Lubbock, Midland, Texas, San Antonio through the early morning hours. You got I would say a level 2 risk, that moderate risk there. Now, if I were to zoom this map in down in the Midland to maybe near San Antonio, maybe Del Rio range here, that's whenever you could see those larger hailstones that could get up to softball-size hail. That's what's going to be those larger hailstones for today. I'd have to really zoom in, though. Let's take a look at your wind risk for today. Pretty similar here. You're going to see some higher wind anywhere from New Orleans to Jackson to Atlanta. And then you're going to see that higher wind from like San Antonio. And honestly, I would have brought this risk up a little bit farther to the north, just to the south of Dallas, because of those storms early tomorrow morning in Dallas. So this goes not only through the overnight hours tonight, but into early tomorrow morning as well, until about breakfast time tomorrow morning, 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. What about that tornado risk for tomorrow? Well, it's pretty low. I think the main risks for today is going to be that hail and that high wind threat. You're going to see a flood threat as well. It's pretty low. But that tornado risk also remains low. And hey, look, we got our first severe thunderstorm warning. We'll take a look at that here in just a minute. But here's your tornado risk. It's a level 1 on a scale of 5. That goes anywhere from New Orleans to Jackson to Atlanta. And then another risk, of course, out to the west into places like Texas, Midland, San Antonio, all included in that risk here. Zooming down into San Antonio, because this, again, will be an overnight system. If we see a potential tornado, this is what we call nocturnal tornadoes, where they happen overnight tonight. It's dark. It's very, very hard to spot here. But we are in that risk, that level 1 on a scale of 5, so it's very important to note. Let's talk timing here. I told you storms are likely to fire within the next few hours. We actually have one lingering storm hanging out here just to the south of I-10 this morning, but what we'll see are more storms initiating farther out to the west as we head into the afternoon hours. I would say anytime about after 2 o'clock. You're going to see a line of storms unzip into New Mexico. This will track out to the east through the overnight hours. Here's the thing about these storms. They are slow movers. They come in very, very slow. So if they do produce large hail, it'll be hailing in that same spot for a long time. Also with slow movers, what this means is it gives the storms enough time to organize and form and produce something significant. So what we were actually looking at earlier is this region right here is what we're watching for, a potential tornado or two as we head into the overnight hours tonight from San Angelo all the way down to the border. As we head into the overnight hours, or excuse me, maybe even early morning tomorrow morning, what you're going to see is you're going to see these lines of storms start to bow out. And what that means is more of a high wind threat. So we're transitioning from a large hail threat out to the west to a high wind threat farther to the east, the closer you get to 35 here. This again will happen through the overnight hours. It's going to be very dark and difficult to see these storms at this time. By the time we get to the early morning on Wednesday, the sun is about to come up. We're in that just seeing the first few peaks of sunlight hours. You're going to see storms a little bit closer to Dallas. I just think they're going to be south of the metro. Do we have a chance to see a storm or two during your morning commute in Dallas? It's possible, but for the most part, that's going to stay to the south of the metro. Moving out to the southeast here into the Gulf states, we are expecting to see again that bowing motion here. That's whenever a line of storms will make that backwards C-shaped. What that means, that indicates to us, is that high wind potential. That's going to continue as we head into the afternoon hours, evening hours tonight. Hey Atlanta, heads up Atlanta, you may have a very wet evening commute. So as you're headed out the door, check the radar, make sure there's nothing severe around. You may have a wet evening commute out in Atlanta. But there's your storm risk for today. Tomorrow we basically copy and paste. I like to call it rinse and repeat because we have another setup very similar to today for tomorrow. Let's take a look at, here we are Tuesday, let's take a look at Wednesday. Wednesday we start to see more of those yellow and those orange colors creep back into the western side of Texas. This even includes portions of western Oklahoma into the panhandle of Oklahoma, and even as far north as Denver. You could see that risk for tomorrow as well. So here's tomorrow's risk. We've got the panhandle of Oklahoma, western Texas, southern Texas, including Houston this time, and then all the way out into our Gulf states, even including some of our eastern states like South Carolina and the northern portion of Florida. So there's your risks. There's your risk for today, for tomorrow. We've got a little trough going on right now, which is going to encourage these storms to continue over the next few days. So we'll stay stuck in this pattern for the southern states, just over and over here. And hey, before I go, I want to check the chat right now. We've got a few questions about, we've got one person on YouTube saying Tuesday. I know, right? It feels like a Monday, doesn't it? Mark Anthony from Facebook saying, Alan, just north of Dallas, does it look like any hail? It's a very, very low chance. I would say probably no for today for that hail risk out in Allen, Texas, just north of Dallas. Hey, before we head off of here, just because we do have a severe thunderstorm warning, let's get another check of the radar real quick. Let me go back up and I will do this manually. Where was that severe thunderstorm warning at? Right here. Right along the state line from Alabama into Georgia, zooming out here so you can see what we're looking at. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, there's your severe thunderstorm warning. That right to the south of I-20, moving up to the north and east, and I bet that this is warned for quarters and maybe 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds. That would be my assumption, but let's get a look at the National Weather Service saying hail smaller than the quarter and potentially up to 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds. What they're doing here is they're warning this area for wind, which is exactly what we told you earlier. We told you that this area would have more of a wind threat than a hail threat, and we are seeing that come into fruition now as we head into the afternoon hours and see a few more severe thunderstorm warnings pop up. But that's our forecast for today. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday that feels like a Monday, that could also be feeling like a Friday if you worked storms over the weekend. Have I confused you yet? Happy Tuesday. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And give us a call if you're interested in a wind, hail, or tornado map. We have all of those storms mapped from this weekend. They're already up at hailtrace.com, so we can get you set up. 855-334-4245, or email us at info@hailtrace.com, or head over to our website, hailtrace.com. All right, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. We'll see you back here same time, same place tomorrow.